Okay, before this video begins properly, I'm going to acknowledge the fact I have a cut here and a cut there. The reason for those cuts, well, you'll find out later in the video, but for now we are talking about this. This is the DJI Mavic Mini. This is a sub 250 gram, tiny little drone that shoots 2.7K video and JPEG photographs, which I think are pretty good, especially if you know how to color grade and you've got a little bit of skills in Lightroom. It's got great range, well over what you would need for line of sight flying. Not that anyone would ever fly out of line of sight. Also, for people who have zero piloting skills, it has a few quick shot modes that you can just push a button and it'll take off and take a cool shot for you. And just about everyone is claiming that this is the perfect first drone. But I disagree. I actually think that for most people, for those just getting into drones for the very first time, or even those wanting to get their very first photo or video drone, that this might not be the best option for you. I'm going to go through 5 things that you might want to consider if you're thinking of getting this for your very first drone. And I'm also going to give a couple of other options in there as well. But in the meantime, let me know who's ordered one of these or who's thinking of getting one. Let me know in the comments. Let me know why. Are you getting it because you're wanting to get into drones for the very first time? Or are you getting it because you really, you're wanting to get into it for the photography and the video? Let me know. Okay, and reason 1, and this is one which is particularly relevant to me in a very painful way. This drone is incredibly fragile. The DJI have made this out of ultralight materials, and if you look here, for example, on this front leg, this inside bit here looks like it's solid plastic, or at least it's 4 walls of plastic. It's actually not. This has actually been backfilled with this, look, with this squidgy foam, just to try and cut down on weight. And the result of that is that this is probably the most fragile drone that DJI have ever made. And if you're thinking of getting a drone for the very first time, if you've no experience with flying a drone whatsoever, this could be a very expensive way to learn because everybody crashes. In fact, I've been flying for a year and a half and this is what happened to me on day 2 of owning this drone. I crashed it into a wall, and worst of all, I had the prop guards installed at the time. Landed on the camera, smashed the gimbal, 120 pounds worth of damage it cost to get that repaired. If this is your very first drone and you're not into it just for the photos and the videos, could be a very expensive way to learn. Although in general, no drone is going to survive a really nasty crash. But just to say, yeah, it is fragile. Point number 2, which is related to the first point, this drone does not have any kind of obstacle avoidance, which again is not very good if this is your very first drone and you haven't flown before, because it can be tricky to work out those controls. You need a bit of time. You want a drone that's gonna not punish you for your mistakes, but if you fly this straight towards a wall, it will just keep going, whereas a drone that has obstacle avoidance on the front would stop. Something to consider. Point number 3 is that the Mavic Mini uses a Wi-Fi transmission system. It doesn't use the OcuSync, which is in DJI's more expensive drones. What that basically means is that the quality of the signal that comes from the drone to the remote and then to your phone isn't as good. It means in the event that you maybe fly behind some trees or some buildings, you're far more likely to lose that signal. Which again, you couple that with the fact there's no obstacle avoidance, is a bit of a recipe for crashing the drone if it's gone slightly out of sight. Number 4, and this is particularly relevant if you're really interested in the photography and video side of things, is that while I'm quite happy with the video and the photographs that I'm getting from this, but it doesn't have any pro level controls. For photographs, it doesn't let you shoot in RAW, so you can't shoot raw images and then go and process them afterwards, so you lose a bit of quality there. You would lose the ability to pull back the highlights or raise the shadows significantly. If you're a pro photographer, you're probably gonna wanna be able to do. And then the second thing is that for video, there's almost no controls whatsoever. There are no color profiles for color grading, and you can't manually set the exposure for video. The closest thing you can do is that you can sort of angle the camera in such a way that the exposure is where you want it to be, and then hit the exposure lock button. But that's as close as you can get. So if you're a pro photographer and you're wanting to get into drone photography for the very first time, you might be a little bit disappointed by the camera. That said, I found it to generally be good enough for content that's mostly going to be viewed on smartphones, the smaller screens, but it's not going to hold up that well on a bigger screen. And then number 5 is the whole 250 grams thingy-mabobber. The whole reason this is under 250 grams is to try and avoid legislation which has come in both in the US and in the UK that says you have to register all drones over 250 grams. You have to pay, in the UK you have to pay £9 a year, and you have to do a multiple choice quiz to prove that you're not an idiot, basically. But here's the thing, that legislation has come in because of sort of two concerns really. One is air safety, which just means in general anything flying through the air over a certain weight is a bit of a concern to anyone who might be in an airplane. The second one is privacy, and that's got zero to do with weight and everything to do with this, the fact there's a camera on this. So what that means is, what's probably going to happen is actually that any drone that carries a camera will eventually need to be registered. They'll probably get rid of the whole weight restriction entirely, and basically if you have a drone capable of capturing personal data, which is any drone with a camera on it, that will end up what you have to register, which is going to be a pain, but it just seems to be the way it's going. And in the EU, the rumor is that that legislation is going to change next year in 2020. So if you bought this solely because you don't want to have to register, you might find out that less than 6 months down the line, that might change. All of that said, if you still have your heart set on the little DJI Mavic Mini, I will say this. If you're going to get it, and I would highly recommend that you do get DJI's Refresh plan, even though if you crash it you will have to pay extra, it will cover you for up to 2 drone replacements in a year. So that sort of means worst case scenario, if you take out the extra plan and you crash the drone twice in a year, it's going to cost you a total of, how much is the plan? The plan's 35 plus 240, that's it's going to cost you about £115 for 2 replacements once you add on the actual cost of the refresh, whereas it cost me £120 to get this repaired once. Options then, what do I actually recommend? Well, there's 2 categories here, and the first one is if you just want to get into drones for the very first time, you're not overly concerned about photos and videos, you just want a drone. My recommendation, which will save you a fortune, is to get one of these. This is in little H36. This costs about £15. 15 quid! And it's virtually indestructible. It uses what's called ducted props. So they're completely surrounded, so you can crash it into anything you like. It won't hurt people, and it won't do any damage. It's like having an angry moth bouncing off your face. And it comes with this little tiny controller. You switch it on, you flip this up, you flip this down, that's it, connect it, and then you can fly. Now this is fully manual, there are absolutely 0 assists in this, so I'm having to both operate the controller on multiple axes at the same time. It's just really difficult to do that when you're leaning backwards. Go on, go over there. So yeah, highly recommend that. Super cheap, lots of fun, great to learn on because there's absolutely no assists whatsoever. If you can learn to fly that tiny little drone, you can fly any drone. But I do accept that that might actually be a little bit basic for somebody who wants something that has a camera. So if you want a drone for the very first time that has a camera, but you're not concerned about really high quality photos or videos, I would actually recommend this. This is the DJI Telo. I will be making more videos about this, so I'll just be brief for now. This costs £79, £80? 80 quid, that's it. It's got a camera on it, it takes photographs, it takes video. Now, the quality of the video and the photographs is not fantastic. The photographs are much better than the video. The video's okay if you get a really still day with 0 wind. There's no stabilization on it, and it transmits the video via Wi-Fi, so the video can tend to be quite jerky because of the wind, and then jerky, and then sort of frames can drop because of the Wi-Fi signal. But that said, you can actually get some usable results from this. And to fly it, it connects to your phone. So I'll just turn it on here and show you quickly. Tap this little take off icon here. Swipe this. And it takes off. And you just use the virtual controls on the smartphone to fly it. Bye-bye. And to land it, it has this hand landing feature. So I just push the button, hand landing, hit yes, and it automatically lands in my hand. And the great thing about these two little drones is they are both pretty crash proof. This is indestructible, and this I've crashed it quite a few times indoors. And this one will even survive a direct crash into someone's forehead. Don't fly the Tello into your head. As though, as I learnt, the prop guards do not quite go all the way around. So that is why my forehead is now cut. Yes, so good for crashing into walls, don't crash it into your head. Those two drones are really just toys. What if your first drone, you really want to get something that is going to shoot really high quality photos and videos? Well, the fact is, if you don't have a reason to need a drone this light, what I would actually recommend that you buy is this. This is the original DJI Mavic Pro. This was the first folding drone that really took the world by storm and completely changed drones as we know it. Prior to this, most people had the really large Phantom style drones that required a backpack all of their own. This was the first drone the size of a bottle of water, and you know what? Nearly 2 years later, it's still a fantastic drone. It shoots 4K video, it shoots 12 megapixel raw photographs. It's got 25-minute flight time. It's got the OcuSync transmission, so you get really clear image to the controller, to your phone when you're flying it. It's got built-in obstacle avoidance, so you're not going to crash it if you fly straight into a wall, as long as you've got the obstacle avoidance switched on. And it's got those pro controls for video. It's got color profiles, and you can manually set your exposure for video. This has been my workhorse drone for nearly 2 years, and it's still a fantastic drone. And you can now pick this up secondhand for only about £200 more than the Mavic Mini. And if you consider if you're going to get the Mavic Mini with the Fly More bundle, it's going to cost you close to £500 anyway. This is actually a really good option. To be honest, the only reason for not getting this is that you're concerned about the weight, that you really don't want to register your drone, or you just don't want to have to carry something around that weighs as much as this. But it's really not that heavy. So I mean, unless you're taking it out and hiking for hours and hours at a time, or you want to run with it, which is what I want to do with that little drone, this is actually a really solid option even in 2019, 2020. So that is me pretty much done, and I would be interested to know what people think. Do you think that buying a second-hand Mavic Pro is a better option than Mavic Mini if you're getting into it, you know, for photography and for video? Let me know. Or if you think there's a better option that I have completely missed, you can let me know about that too. But for now, that is it for this video. I will be making more videos about the Tello because I am curious about the possibilities of this drone. And I also discovered that you can mount the little tiny Insta360 Go on the top of this, which has all kinds of interesting possibilities. And I will also be making more videos about the Mavic Mini. I am going to be doing at least one video comparing it in terms of its quality to the Mavic Pro, so you can have a look at that, and that'll maybe help you, make up your mind on that decision a little bit better. And I might also compare it to the Spark. So if you want any of those videos, you can subscribe. But apart from that, I will see you on the next video, what is it about? Oh, the next video, actually, one I'm quite excited about. It is going to be a GoPro alternative for around £100, $100. So I'll see you in that one.